All right, everyone. So this is from the meetup game that Josh and I had here at the Hideaway in Dallas a couple weeks back. We're playing a PLO and Big O mix. So pretty easy. If I have 4 cards, we're playing PLO. If I have 5 cards, such as I have here, we're playing Big O. Here, look down at 86652 double suited in the small blind. We actually go $10 7 ways to a flop of 963 with 2 diamonds. Another thing we're playing is what's called the small blind jackpot. So everyone puts $10 on the button, and the only player that can win this money is the player in the small blind. So there's $110 up for grabs for me to win in this particular hand. I lead for the full pot of 70 over to Josh, who makes the call. Late position player who goes by T-Rex also makes the call. So we're going 3 ways to a turn. The turn brings an 8, so not really a great card here, but it's kind of an awkward situation as I have such a low amount left compared to the size of the pot. So I just go ahead and reluctantly rip it all in. Josh makes the call and T-Rex does as well. So going 3 ways to a river. The river brings a jack. Both opponents check. Josh ends up turning over his hand and shows ace 9, 8, 7, 5. So he made the straight with the ace 5 low. Then T-Rex turns over the 7, 7, 5, 4, 4 for the exact same straight with a worse low. And Josh is going to take down 3/4 of the pot here. Shortly after the previous hand, I looked down at ace queen 8, 4, 2 double suited in the hijack. We end up going 8 ways, $10 each to a flop of king 6, 5 with 2 spades. Josh leads for 80. Over to Sticky Mike, who also makes the call. Alfred does the same. And my hand here, I would prefer to have a better flush draw, but I think I have too much equity here to fold. So I make the call over to the player on the button who thinks for a bit and puts everything in the middle for 280. Josh makes the call, Sticky Mike makes the call, but then Alfred decides to pot it. And at this point, I have too much invested, so I go ahead and put it all in. Then Josh folds and Sticky Mike makes the call. So we're going 4 ways to a run out. The turn brings an ace. River brings the 10 of spades, bringing in the front door flush. Sticky Mike and Alfred ended up having a side pot. Alfred ends up turning over the ace, ace, king 9, 6 for the nut flush. Sticky Mike had the 4-3 low, but I turn over my hand for the better low, and me and Alfred here are going to chop up the main pot. All right, everyone, so I'm excited to announce that Josh and I are going to be back in Chicago next month, Saturday, April 1st and Sunday, April 2nd. Saturday, we're going to be at the VFW in Warrenville. Sunday, we're going to be at the American Legion in Downers Grove. This is more Western Chicago area. We're going to be playing the same game that we play at all of our meetup games, which is the PLO Big O mix with a small blind jackpot. So, of course, any questions, feel free to message me. I'll be happy to answer them. But if you're in the area those days, definitely come on out and have some fun with us. Here, look down at ace queen 10-3 double suited under the gun in a straddled pot. I make it 35, folds over to the small blind, whose name is Richard. He calls, and Angry Aaron to my right makes the call. So we're going 3 ways to a flop. The flop comes king queen 7 with 2 hearts. Both players check to me. I bet 60, and both players call. So we're still going 3 ways to a turn. The turn brings another queen. Both players check to me again. This time I size up to 225, and both players fold. So we take this one down. Here, look down at ace, ace, 7-2 single suit in the cutoff in a straddled pot. There's 1 limp over to Alfred, who makes it 50. I call, and there are 3 callers behind, so we're going 5 ways to a flop. Flop comes jack, jack, 10 rainbow. Everyone checks to me, and I check as well, so still going 5 ways to a turn. Turn brings a 4 diamonds. Everyone checks again, and I decide to take a stab at it and bet 120, and everyone folds, so we're going to take this one down. This is a hand I wasn't involved in, but they ended up going 3 ways all in. Board ended up running out queen jack 6-5-4. Alfred ended up turning over the ace jack 3-3-2, so he flopped the nut low as well as the straight. He scooped the side pot, and Angry Aaron is in the small blind, and he had a $220 incentive to win the hand, and ended up pushing blind, and ends up turning over his cards one by one, but doesn't get any help, and Alfred's going to scoop it here. Goes about an hour after the previous hand until I look down at queen jack 8-7 single suited in the cutoff. Folds over to Angry Aaron, who makes it 15. This is a hand I'd probably fold with under the gun, but in later position I make the call, and there are 2 callers behind, so we're going 4 ways to a flop. Flop comes jack 8-5 rainbow, checks to Angry Aaron, who bet 60. I make it 240. Folds back to Aaron, who only has about 300 behind. He thinks for a bit and folds, so we're going to take this one down. About an hour after the previous hand, about 5 hours into the session, I look down at ace 10, 7-7-3, single suited on the button. We end up going 7 ways, $10 each to a flop of jack 6-4 with 2 spades. Josh leads for 30. There are 2 callers over to me, and here I have a little bit of everything. Have the nut flush draw, gut shot, second nut low, so I make it 150, and only Josh makes the call, so we're going heads up to a turn. The turn brings the queen of spades. Josh checks. I bet 250. He thinks for a bit and makes the call, so we're going heads up to a river. River brings a jack. Josh checks again, and I don't think I'm going to be able to get value from worse, so I check back. I turn over my hand. He says he had the king high flush, and 250 on the turn was about the most value I was going to be able to get, so we're going to take this one down. Here, look down at ace, ace, 9, 6, 6, single suit in the big blind. There are a couple limpers. Over to the small blind who makes it 30. I call, and there are 2 callers behind, so we're going 4 ways to a flop. So a quick note on this hand, in Big O, you want to be able to make the wheel, most importantly, and also Broadway. Now, obviously with this hand, I can't make either. Plus, I only have 1 suit and I have 3 hearts. And for anyone out there that plays even 5 card high, you know that, aces are definitely not as strong in that game. So this hand is definitely not as strong as it may appear to be. Flop comes 10, 10, 7 with 2 hearts. Checks to me. I bet 50. Josh makes the call and the original raiser makes the call. So we're going 3 ways to a turn. I didn't expect to get 2 calls. With me having 3 hearts plus blocking a bunch of the straight draws, I expected maybe 1 call, but pretty likely here that I'm up against at least 1 player with a 10. The turn brings a jack of hearts, checks to me, I check, and Josh checks back. So still going 3 ways to a river. The river brings an 8, checks to me, I check. Josh now counts out some chips and bets 225. The player to my right thinks for a while, ends up tanking for almost a minute, and eventually folds. Now, had he snap folded, I probably would have folded as well, but him tanking makes it more likely that he might have had a 10. And if that's the case, it's a little less likely that Josh has a boat, which is going to beat me here. So for that reason, I ended up calling, and Josh ends up turning over the ace 10, 8, 5, 2 for the rivered full house, and he's going to take it down here. I asked the player in the small blind what he had. He did say he had a 10 as well as hearts on the river, which is why he tanked for a little bit. This hand is about an hour and a half after the previous hand. We're now about 7.5 hours into the session. I look down at Jack 998, double suited under the gun. We're actually playing short-handed, only 5 players, so I make it 15. Josh makes the call and the big blind makes the call, so we're going 3 ways to a flop. Flop comes 8-4-4 with 2 diamonds. The big blind now donk leads for 30. I make the call and Josh calls as well, so we're still going 3 ways to a turn. Turn brings a beautiful 9, checks to me, and gotta go for some value here, obviously, so I bet 85. Josh makes the call and the other player folds, so we're going heads up to a river. River brings a 3, so it shouldn't really change anything here. I'm just thinking of a sizing, and I settle on 225, and let's listen to what Josh says.
Oh, please don't splash the pot, sir.
Nine's full. Even better. Oh my god.
What is it, 225?
225.
We just keep pausing at 225.
I know, it's like 250 back and forth. That's sick.
Josh turned over 8-4 for the flop full house, so pretty fortunate to hit the 9 on the turn, and pretty sick cooler here. Shortly after the previous hand, I looked down at King, 5-4-2, double suited in the cutoff. We go 5 ways, limped around to a flop of ace 10-3 rainbow. Josh leads for 10. There are 2 callers over to me. I make it 40, and there are 2 callers behind, so we're going 3 ways to a turn. Turn brings a 2 of clubs, bringing the backdoor flush draw. Checks to me, I bet 90, and only the player to my right makes the call, so we're going heads up to a river. River brings the 8 of clubs, now bringing the backdoor flush draw, and my opponent immediately leads 200. I toss in a chip to indicate a call. He doesn't look too thrilled about turning over a hand, so I say I have the wheel and turn it over. He kind of looked confused. I'm not really sure if he maybe thought he had a flush and didn't, but he mucks, and we're going to scoop it here. About 20 minutes after the previous hand, the game's about to break, so we decided to do a $40 open hand, and we end up having the best hand on the turn, and all we have to do is fade a spade on the river, and river brings a 2 of clubs, so we end up winning the $200 open hand and rack up shortly after.
What's up, guys? Wayne back here with you. So today I was in for 700, out for 1657, so profit of 957. Just want to thank everyone for coming out to support Josh and I. Everyone had a really good time. I know Alfred in particular said it was one of the best Big O or Congress games he's played in a while, which is really awesome. A lot of people message me asking me kind of the ins and outs of starting a poker vlog. And I tell them, just like poker, it's a grind. There's going to be a lot of things you really don't want to do, such as taking notes, spending countless hours editing, but what is really awesome about it is being able to travel to different places, such as Dallas, and meeting a lot of you guys. So we're definitely looking forward to the next time, which tentatively will be in either August or September, after the series. So once we get closer, we'll definitely let you guys know. And if you haven't seen the previous episode, I'm going to link it up here, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.